Nobody wants to be loved by proxy of their bank account. Bank accounts don't get laid, bank accounts don't maintain friendships, and they certainly don't make people laugh. In my interactions with wealthy people all the way up to 10 figures, I've realized that the richest people I've ever met go to great efforts to appear average. Furthermore, not only would you not expect to see these people in a Bugatti, but when you get to know them, you realize that they value self-improvement and assets over everything. This is the importance of looking poor. The mindset of the wealthy is one of individualism, an almost obsession with the self. You see this in how they prioritize where to position their money. They leverage their position to assure the best education for themselves and their children. They invest in their personal growth because there is an implicit understanding that they cannot or should not rely on outside factors. By the sweat of their brow, they succeed or fail. Wealthy people do not make an attempt to impress the common man. For in the words of Rick Sanchez, "Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer." The average man is dazzled by a wristwatch or a fine suit. He is seduced by a good steak or a genetically blessed woman. Every exceptionally wealthy person I have ever met looks right past these trivial desires of the lizard brain, because at some point along the way, along the likely decades it took to build themselves into who they are today, they were forced to cut away that part of themselves, or at least compartmentalize it, to such a degree that the curve of a woman's thigh or the appeal of a fast car is a distant sensation in their brain, like a dog barking in the distance, hard to even notice unless focused upon. The singular focus on money, as with any difficult pursuit, aids in your endeavor. I myself became utterly obsessed with money when I was 21 years old, having just graduated with a useless art degree in ceramic sculpture. I fell right back into the food service industry, my only real skill in my youth. Shortly thereafter, I found myself managing a restaurant outside of Washington, D.C., working 75 hours a week. It was then that I wholly committed myself with a destructive obsession to understanding money, personal finance, investment, and the stock market. This is how I grew my net worth 1,600% in the next 4 years, while simultaneously living a life of adventure and chaos in Wuhan, China. The obsessive nature that I attacked the issue with was an essential component, because I assure you the material was as dry as a camel's elbow. These efforts culminated in me buying my first rental property, a single-family home in cash at the age of 27. 2 years of obsession permanently set me aside from my peers, and 2 to 4 years of obsessive work making all the difference has become a pattern in my life. Next, let's talk about appearances as opposed to reality. The classic saying of money talks, wealth whispers is the reality. Almost every fool buying expensive clothes and popping bottles at the club is a millionaire at most. As wealth grows, so does the existential fear of potential loss. If you've ever wondered how those lowest members of society living under bridges and injecting themselves with unknown substances can do what they do, remember that it becomes a lot easier once you have nothing to lose. Now imagine you've spent 30 years building an empire, taking your company public, and now your share of the company is worth billions. How suddenly do you think you would stop taking unnecessary risks? How would you look at bars or nightclubs, a busy downtown area, or even meeting a stranger from a dating app? How much more difficult would it be for you to feel safe or determine a person's trustworthiness? Wealth whispers because it would rather not be heard, or seen, or known. Wealth moves silently and in shadows. The wealthy leverage their wealth first and foremost to guard themselves. Endless layers of LLCs to guard their assets, law firms on retainer guard them for personal liability, and an inherent caution in their dealings with strangers acts as a passive guard against malicious characters. This is why the wealthy become increasingly insulated, and why those with money who remain in the public domain are especially fascinating. Characters like Joe Rogan, who is wealthy enough to, by his own admission, have a cadre of professional killers guarding his podcast studio, while also frequenting the Austin, Texas downtown area for his comedy club, The Mothership. Elon Musk, depending on the market and speculative nature of his company Tesla, has at times been the world's richest man, reportedly living in a prefabricated 800 square foot home. As he said on a podcast with Joe Rogan, "People come after me for having lots of stuff, so I sold my stuff. What now?" Personally, if you have FU money, but you aren't saying F you've failed and squandered an opportunity rarer than rocking horse shit. Even Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he purchased for $31,500 in 1958, despite having enough money to fund Germany's defense budget for 2 years. What we see here is a trend. Those with the capital to live a life of excess intentionally try not to. They likely recognized a long time ago that there would be no lasting satisfaction in material opulence. In a practical sense, financial strategies are often as painfully simple as weight loss strategies. But just because something is simple doesn't mean it's easy. Spend less than you make, invest the difference. Assess your risk profile, decide on an investment split that runs the gradient from low to high risk, and allocate funds accordingly. Personally, I've always tried to keep at least 50% of my market positions in long-term blue-chip dividends, a small portion of net worth in crypto and gold, and a small portion in high-risk speculation. This is entirely personal. A person's risk profile is absolutely unique to them. It's important because it should be influenced by so many factors. Age, income, and cost of living are just the bare essentials. Beyond that, consider deeply just how comfortable you would really be. Would you sleep soundly at 30% speculation? How about 50%? Would you worry or get distracted? There is a lot more to life than your portfolio, and peace of mind has quite a value to it. Ultimately, determine your financial goals, determine what your desired material necessities are, and then tailor your life to squeeze the greatest possible quality out of the smallest possible budget. Hell, I lived in China largely because I made a conscious decision that I didn't mind breathing toxic air, drinking toxic water, and eating toxic food, all while under the thumb of a genocidal regime, because making $100 an hour to sing the ABCs to kids and getting 6 months of paid holiday a year was worth it to me. My advice to young people, figure out in extreme detail what truly matters to you. And then, even if it means traveling around the world, pursue what matters. And if you're clever, I think you'll find it's not too hard to hit some basic financial goals along the way. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And let me know in the comments section, what are some parts of life you can't live without? And more interestingly, tell me, what are some things you're happy to sacrifice if it means meeting financial and personal goals? That's all for today. Take care.